Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down Gen V. We are back with the finale to talk about the Easter eggs, hidden details, and where we could be heading for The Boys Season 5. In our recent Every Clue video on Cipher, we talked about how he was a dark reflection of Dean Shetty. This comes from things like them both being introduced the same way in promo videos, and one wanting to wipe out the supes while the other wants to evolve them to their highest potential. Both had hidden agendas and were using a supe within the group to further their own ends. That theme of reflections continued for the final episode, as it feels like a remix of the Season 1 finale. I have really enjoyed this season in the end though, even if it felt a bit short, but this was a very enjoyable finale that teased what's coming. But enough of that and me waffling on, we've got a lot to discuss in the breakdown, so let's hit the thumbs up, which we're all in agreement to, and get right into the episode.
Prove that you belong, or die trying.
Okay, so firstly, we bring things full circle from the opening of episode 1. We begin with a flashback to show how Gdulkan survived the fire in 1967. There we ended as he hit the fire alarm, and we get the rest of that scene continued. Frankie Valli's classic "Can't Take My Eyes Off You" blares out, with it heading towards a crescendo. The song juxtaposes the horrors of the fire and the screams from Gdulkan's colleagues. Realizing the dire state of his situation, he takes Compound V in desperation. Now, we'd originally thought that he inhaled the chemicals in the lab, which then gave him his powers. In our theories, this was a nod to the Golden Age heroes like Jay Garrick, aka The Flash. Instead, we see him injecting himself with the V. If you go back to episode 1, you can also clearly see this spare needle hinting at this act of desperation. It's true Vought blue, and on a colour level, it works nicely to juxtapose the orange of the flames. You might also notice that his skin seems to turn just before the flames engulf him. We see these weird blotchy effects when he uses his powers in the final battle. It turns out this happens if he pushes his powers too far, and because of this, it makes sense why he'd also be interested in Marie, as she's a supe who could constantly heal him. Then again, that's a problem he doesn't have to worry about anymore. Hold this L, Mr. G. Either way, this reminded me a lot of the dormant mutant powers that were activated in the first Deadpool movie. In that, Wade was secured in a tube and suffocated until it activated his mutant gene. This gave him his healing factor, but it left him with scarred skin. He survived, but in the end was deformed, similar to how Gdulkan ends up here. This video is sponsored by Foundation Galactic Frontier. The brand new game is now out on mobile and PC, and it allows you to journey into the thrilling Foundation universe in a way like never before. Apple TV have brought the story of the incredible show to life with countless galaxies and characters to explore. As a space trader with your own ship, you have some amazing paths you can carve out in this universe. Foundation Galactic Frontier allows you to customize your flagship ship from scratch. You can build over 30 rooms that have a number of different functionalities, recruit several crew members, and assign them unique tasks and research to achieve your objectives. It's the first mobile game to adapt Isaac Asimov's Foundation, and it gives you the chance to meet characters from the show like Harry Seldon. You can also meet the Mule, as well as Demoiselle. I won't spoil how she's included, but there's a lot going on. The game allows you to wage war in ship battles in space, and also compete in ground fights on various exotic planets. The dual battle system makes Foundation Galactic Frontier have a new generation of space-themed mobile games. It's also featured by App Store in 180 plus countries and regions during the pre-order, and my exclusive promo code will allow you to unlock several in-game rewards. All you have to do to step into this amazing universe is click my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now. The game's also free to play, and with my exclusive promo code you get lots of incredible extras. Fight fierce space battles, navigate through space, explore planets, and get this incredible spaceship simulation set in the Foundation universe. Again, all you have to do is click my link in the description or scan the QR code to get playing now. Like I said, it's absolutely free and definitely worth checking out, so yeah, go play now. Thanks. Now, as we learn, he took Compound V1. This was the same serum that Stormfront and Soldier Boy were given, and as you can guess, it was the original version of the compound. We told you we'd point out things you missed. Since then, they refined it and even created V24, which gives temporary powers. This OG one though is very much like the Super Soldier Serum from Marvel. In both the comics and MCU, it significantly halts the effects of aging. It's why Stormfront had different personas over the years, and Soldier Boy's remained how he was in the 40s. This may have even been slowed further by the fact he was kept in a chamber as well, which was used as a play on the Winter Soldier story. These two characters are also getting their own spin-off show very soon, which may also further delve into this. There being a different version of V later on also explains why the rest of the soup seemed to age. Season 4 showed Homelander finding grey hairs, which made him become even more focused on his legacy in Ryan. He was crashing out last season after that grey pube appearance, and it meant he might not be the immortal god he thought he was. I do wonder if he might even be able to take V1, and if that could potentially prolong his life. I doubt it though, as Anthony Starr's already done his farewell post on Instagram for season 5. Either way though, this is why Gdulkan's managed to live to be almost 100 years old. At some point though, Vought must have removed this benefit from Compound V, and this could have been for a number of reasons. Maybe because it affected their bottom line, or the immortal supes were harder to control. Stormfront had numerous controversies, and yeah, like, imagine someone with a worldview of someone from the 1930s walking around these days, mate. They'd be getting bloody cancelled every day, they would. And yes, I know people still exist, but don't give them access to the internet. Now, this serum being called V1 also calls back to its Nazi origins. This is clearly a nod to the V1 flying bomb, which was one of the most powerful weapons in Hitler's arsenal. This was a jet-propelled bomb designed by Werner von Braun that was morphed into the V2. Von Braun was the man who helped send America to the moon, and he was a massive part of Operation Paperclip. This program saw America recruit the top-ranking Nazi scientists, and this inspired the character Frederick Vought. He then created V, so the V1 is a clear reference to all that. Either way, Gdulkan was burnt up and had to rely on controlling others. It's unclear how he managed to escape the lab. As Stan said, his body wasn't found. Personally, I think it was like when Kate was in the hospital and then controlled the nurses. He barely escaped though, and then latched onto a scientist, which was his first host, Dr. Fielder. So Fielder is probably the scientist who found him and then, yeah, took him out the area. Or it might have just been a random guy who he puppeted. Obviously, no, he's a very smart scientist, and then, like Cipher, he gave the appearance that he was a doctor. In the end, though, Doug reveals he's the second host, and that he was taken over during 1996. At the height of blockbuster fame, woohoo! Never going out of business! Now, Cipher arrived through Gdulkan, giving the appearance of a sweet old man, and obviously Fielder would have been on his way out. Doug was then asked if he had any family or a life, but he was all alone, which made him the perfect puppet. No one would miss him or even ask questions, and he was a blank slate that was perfect to build on. It's kind of harrowing as almost 30 years later, he's been just an avatar for Gdulkan.
I am assuming direct control.
Guy's lived a very bleak life, and as we learn, he's just been watching everything unfurl over the last 30 years. Every single moment he was being controlled and was just a passenger in his own mind. I did wonder if this was even playing off Blockbuster, which was obviously built around selling you things to watch. But that is a massive reach. Doug then mentions how the first thing he did was choke Fielder, which is absolutely horrifying.
I'm the second puppet. The first one is dead.
Which is also some incredible line delivery by Hamish Linklater. He's done an outstanding job playing the intimidating Cipher this season, whereas now we get to do the complete opposite and just be like a weak, vulnerable guy. The reason that he's so beaten up as well is that he of course sustained the injuries inflicted on him. As Cipher, we saw him withstand a knife to the hand and even have kettlebells thrown at him like how you smashed the subscribe button. As a puppet, Gdulkan didn't feel his pain, so he was able to just keep pushing through it. We have likened it in other videos of being like a computer game character where your avatar's the one who gets shot and hurt, and you're just chilling playing the game thinking about the next heavy spoilers upload. Doug's had the control turned off before he could even heal though, and he looks like he's about to die. Even the scene begins with him coughing up blood. So it seems like the pain receptors are indeed turned off when Gdulkan's in charge, but now that Doug's in control again, he's having a very, very bad time. Unfortunately for him, Marie's healing's on a cooldown as well. I'm sure lots of you have also wondered why Gdulkan didn't just control Marie, which is actually answered in this episode. Annabeth asks a question later on, but it turns out that Marie was just too powerful. This is actually why he wanted to get Marie to level up. While he wanted to heal up so he could drink copious amounts of wine and hold his own dick, he had another plan in the back of his mind. Marie was going to be a stepping stone to control Homelander. The idea was if he could heal up and take over one Odessa baby, then he could control their dark opposite. Throughout the season, they've constantly talked about how Odessa was trying to make a match for Homelander, and he's sort of been the Spectre trying to control them all. He kept the secret culling plan to himself, and just like Homelander, he's gone off the rails with Sister Sage's plan. Unfortunately, both Gdulkan and Homelander are egomaniacs who think they're superior. The latter messed up his plan, only for Sage to reveal she baked in this idiocracy into her calculations. This is a personality flaw that Gdulkan's also noticed as well, and it plays into why he wants to control Homelander. I mean, other than using cool powers like flying around and shooting lasers from your eye, like all the time, like spam the lasers, and obviously drinking loads of milk as well. But no, Gdulkan thinks that Homelander's the reason why the supes have been held back all this time. To Gdulkan, he's so jealous, narcissistic and precious that he can't stand anyone being better than him. It's why the recruiting of the Seven is just constantly so bad.
Why is an ocean-land dolphin fucker like the deep in the Seven?
Homelander has only ever recruited people he can control. We have morons like the Deep and fangirl supes like Firecracker. However, if Gdulkan can control the top dog of all the supes, then he can ensure that his plan of a supe merit system will fully be in place. To him, his life works resulted in a vapid, weak, marketing-led university that admits anyone with fee in their veins, which is also just like how Soldier Boy thought Homelander was a joke. Vought International at the moment exists for one reason, and that's to make as much money as possible. This means that supes need to be marketable, but this manufacturing often leads to lots of ego and weaknesses. And basically people getting pushed because they're good looking and marketable rather than actually being skilled. The opposite to this is what Gdulkan wants. The founder of the university considers Marie as a top supe, which is a stark contrast to last season. There, she wasn't considered a moneymaker, even though she's one of the most powerful. In his world of merit, those who are overlooked for superficial reasons could now even join the Seven. It's all about eugenics and has a really dark side to it, and in the end, leads to lots of death. Now, it's from this that Marie also doubts that she's too strong to be controlled, which fits with the theme of this season. Overall, I think, season 2 has been about how you need to believe in yourself and accept that you can actually be a hero, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Emma's started to like herself and has inspired her own mini resistance cell, and Sam and Kate are making amends for what they did in the summer. This is then coupled with Marie, who's finally accepting who she is. After this, we see just how hurt Doug is, but he's content with the fact that he's free from Gdulkan's control. We get the line from Jordan about it being like in the backseat of your car, which they mentioned earlier in the season. It also felt like a nod to Get Out, and I think the scenes from that fit well with this motif. But finally, in the end, Doug is free. Whew. Oof. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was kind of hoping he'd become part of the resistance cell, but my guy got turned into a shish kebab, and that's another Dean down. Now, on the flip side of this, Gdulkan controlling Homelander is a different version to what Sage is doing. She controls him via her planning and intelligence, so there's no need to try and enter his brain. Yeah, who knows what you'd find in there. Probably lots of milk-themed fetishes. Sage knows, though, he just wants to be liked and loved, and thus she's able to play upon this. This is something that was reflected in the comics, and he didn't even kill James Stillwell right before the White House battle. Stillwell just acted uninterested in him, which saved his life as Homelander just wanted to impress him. This is something we'll discuss more at the end, because I want to talk about how this finale sets up The Boys Season 5. Now from here we cut to Gdulkan, who's enjoying the finest food and wine. He's now able to experience a life he's been held back from, as he was fed his food blended and kept inside the chamber. And inside the house in general, just inside everywhere. He never got to go out, smell the flowers and the grass and fresh air, and this was why it meant so much to him last week. Also forgot to say in our last episode breakdown how his waking up and being disgusted with the students reminded me a lot of Soldier Boy. In Season 3, the Payback leader walked around New York, confused and angry at what had become of the world. That was also similar to Blade Trinity, and their Dracula was resurrected and furious that his name was used on all sorts of cheap tat. Gdulkan's drinking of the wine also reminds me of a vampire who's healed after consuming plasma, especially the opening of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which might be a reach. Like Blade Trinity's Dracula though, Thomas has been healed and is free to continue their goals. Gdulkan's had a spending spree on Uber Eats and eats lobster, spaghetti, and even a Detroit pizza. This is something that may have even been chosen by Detroit native Sister Sage, who's always wearing Detroit-themed t-shirts. I looked it up as well, and it's just a square pizza, but I'm sure someone in the comments will say it's actually the best, it's the best. So yeah, this video is sponsored by Square Pizza. Be there or be square. Now Sage then says that he should try something I couldn't quite make out. It did sound like boba, but as far as I know, there's no squid testicles in boba tea. that we know of. You should try square pizza instead. The food does remind me of Sage eating Guy Fieri's takeout in the main boys show, but there she lobotomized herself and played into her baser instincts to tolerate being around the deep. But hey, maybe she just likes junk food. When it comes to Gdulkan though, she doesn't need a lobotomy, and it looks like she's finally met someone who's her equal. Almost. In the past, the pair had been banging via Doug like some sort of weird in real life VR chat, and the relationship is now moving to the next stage. She asks him to move into her flat in the 7th tower, which he ends up accepting. Seems like this is a big step for her and showing another level of commitment. However, like Doug, Gdulkan has no future. The guy ate until he popped. You can tell he's really into her though, as he even calls her by her real name. It turns out that she's planned out pretty much everything in the season, from planting the Odessa file for Starlight to making sure Marie goes back to school. She's somewhat of a tragic figure though, as she's helped 2 men get whatever they want, only for them to become total egomaniacs and think they know better. I think Gdulkan's death may convince her that backing Homelander is stupid and force her to join the resistance. However, I do kind of wonder if Annabeth's gonna act as an opposite to her. Annabeth has the ability to predict the future, but Sage has an almost insane level of precognition due to her intelligence and able to work the angles. I do feel like Homelander will just turn on her in the moment he gets what he wants, and she has likely thought ahead to what could happen with this. But yeah, again, it's happened with Gdulkan, and he says his plan's better when he gets healed. Sage says they need to be careful when introducing him to the soup, as he's threatened by anyone who could match him. Homelander doesn't like surprises, and this is something he's just about to get. Gdulkan then reveals he's got a class to teach, which is possibly the stupidest way to reveal all of this to the villain. His reveal later makes the decision even worse, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Cutting to Doug, we then see Polarity taking him to the hospital. Found it funny that the license plate reads Polarity 5, which likely shows how many cars that he owns. He tries to see if Doug has anyone he can call, but unfortunately there's no one. Plus, a guy's been walking around with his face committing lots of different atrocities, so he feels guilty over the people he tortured and killed while being in control. It's sort of a Winter Soldier style situation. Just as Hydra issued kill commands to Bucky, Doug was manipulated like a puppet and even questions whether it felt like him or not. Hamish Linklater is fantastic here as well, and the real Doug comes across as very laid back and chill. He does some fantastic acting as he switched out from the Gdulkan smarmy way of talking to just being a nice guy. The car ride is a touching scene as Doug says that Andre was his favourite soup, mainly due to him somehow pissing in Gdulkan's coffee. Andre was the one who managed to rile Gdulkan up the most, and Doug's just happy to have seen it firsthand, even if he did get to drink that R. Kelly juice. Andre was fearless though and risked everything for his friends. Like everyone else, Andre went from being just a party boy to a hero. In season 1, his ego almost caused a woman's death, but when there was real danger and injustice, he stood up to use his powers for good. This lovely moment is then ruined though, as poor Doug's killed by none other than Black Noir, which just comes out of nowhere. It's brutally gruesome as blood spurts out, which unfortunately we can't show. However, it continues Black Noir's role, as he was always the assassin for the Seven. If he was sent after you, mate, you were already dead, and yeah, the new Noir is following that role perfectly. Billy even only managed to survive a fight against him, as Stan Edgar said to stand down. This replacement is just as deadly, but we're reminded he doesn't have that stoic ninja persona. We end the scene with him throwing up a peace sign for the selfie.
Please, no gang signs.
After the original's death, he was replaced by a talkative dude who wanted to understand his character's motivation. In case you didn't know though, he's still played by the same actor, which is none other than Nathan Mitchell. As of season 4, he finally got to speak on screen, and I audibly chuckled when he ended up hitting that peace sign. Seems like he's doing the bidding of Sister Sage though, as later on we see Polarity in a prison that Sage visits. In season 4 we saw her manipulate the Deep, and it also came out she was sleeping with Black Noir. So it makes sense that she's sent him out to clean up her mess. With Gdulkan going out and wanting to reveal himself to the world, she needs to remove as much evidence as possible. If Doug and Polarity are off the board, then Homelander has very little information and Sage can control the narrative. Anyway, we cut back to the kids who return to their dorm, which did make me laugh. What is the security like on this campus? What are they even doing? With Marie's sister there though, it reminded me a lot of when we saw Sam leave the woods and then be taken to the dorms. They're sort of reflecting things from season 1, where we have soup siblings, where one's highly regarded while the other's kind of being pushed to the side. Marie herself feels guilt for believing in Cipher, or Gdulkan's promise that she was special, or the chosen one in this situation. Even if he didn't control her brain, he still managed to get into her head. She believed she was the chosen one, and it was almost a Dickensian level of wish fulfillment. Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, they're all orphans who are overlooked, and then they met someone who told them they were special and one of the most important people who ever lived. Marie's been told that she's basically Jesus, and she bought into this narrative and may have seen herself as the kid from the orphanage who'd go on to do great things. Gdulkan wanted her to be a god, and this is similar to how Homelander perceives himself, which again makes her such a cool reflection of him. She could easily have fallen into the trap of being an egotistical monster, but instead Starlight's ways inspiring her to do the right thing. The only way to defeat Ford is to have a full-on resistance with supes and humans working together to take down Homelander and his cronies. This scene also adds a lot to their characters as well. Emma has now become the rational one, and she has a very vulnerable moment with the girls. Once the girls share their baggage and trauma from their childhood and being supes in general, they can then achieve anything. It's kind of like how when you open up and talk about things, you feel a massive sense of relief as you're speaking it to others who can help you deal with it. Emma then inspires the weird messed up family and talks about how they can save the day. In season 1, when they worked together, it was going really well until they had a split in ideology during the final moments. Their downfall was splitting up, but now they're working together and thus they're strong. It's also like how the boys' crew are splintering as well. Billy's now out on his own after fully going off the deep end. He's very similar to Kate, and the point of no return for him was his murder of Newman. The ending of this season though shows us that the Resistance needs a wide spectrum of supes to even have a chance to take down Homelander. So this convinces Marie that she can't just run off and go at it alone, even if she did it to keep her friends and family safe. This conversation also makes Marie finally trust Kate. Marie apologizes and then heals her, and it has kind of been a bit of will they, won't they, but it's finally happened. In the end, Kate's shown remorse and genuinely wants to stop the overreach by people like Gdulkan and Homelander. She, like Marie, was convinced that she was special and also the chosen one. Marie's indoctrination was more like a Jesus figure though, whereas Kate was radicalized in believing supes are better than humans. Gdulkan, though, is taking the Vought mentality to the next level. Again, very much like a twisted version of Magneto. I really love this scene, though, as we hear the blood sounds similar to when she healed Annabeth in Polarity. Such a great moment where Kate hears Marie think, "I'm sorry," and this shows that her powers are finally fixed. It's a beautiful scene, and it finally completes Kate's redemption and basically shows that she's a good guy again. Gdulkan's endgame starts, though, as Thomas introduces himself during a TikTok. Is that what it's called? I don't know, maybe? Is that what the kids say? Speaking of Magneto, though, it reminded me a lot of his broadcast from X-Men The Last Stand, just more sort of a modern version of it. He also talks about how the reports of his death have been greatly exaggerated, which is of course playing off that famous quote. I don't even really know who coined it, but you hear it a lot. The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. You know it. His ego is definitely his downfall here, though. Throughout campus, he's put statues up and had Gdulkan Day. And yeah, looking back, it was kind of obvious he was going to do this. I even kind of wish that we had like a cameo from Homelander where we just cut to him watching this and being like, "What the shit?" The comments crack me up, though, as one says, "Where you been?" Yeah, mate, just been in a tube since the 60s, but Blood Jesus has fixed me. Always love the comments on things like this, though, and they have some great world building and kind of show the temperature of the general public. Even the performance art cocks are getting a chance to being the 10s what's being talked about. This is something that also gets continued later on when Marie does her own video. It doesn't matter what powers you have, though, or your current ranking, you now have the opportunity to join the top 10 via Gdulkan's seminars. Of course, though, this is all a ruse to weed out the weakest students and make the quote-unquote perfect society. Reminds me a lot of the challenges that the Viltrumites put out on Invincible, and we learned they had a giant sort of only the fittest survive battle royale type thing. This basically destroyed half the population and meant that they only had the best of the best of the best serve. But in the end, it bred a fascist mentality in which everyone who is vulnerable or seen as less than was killed out and exterminated. With that in mind, it's kind of weird seeing Justine and Rufus get excited and watching intently. Both are just the worst, with Justine being an avid social climber, while Rufus is just Rufus. It's a Faustian deal that makes them think they're finally going to earn their spot, but neither are really that powerful in the grand scheme of things. kind of playing off the turkeys voting for Christmas thing that we often see in real life. To them though, it's the opportunity of a lifetime to join the Seven. From the outside, it seems like the perfect life. However, not all that glitters is gold, and he joined but was immediately propositioned by the Deep, and we even saw how prestigious it was for A-Train to get drafted in Season 1, which makes his joining at the end much more impactful as it bookends both seasons. Gdulkan also mentions the city contracts, which is something we've seen in the main show. Stillwell attempted to sell Nubian Prince to the mayor of Baltimore, and this was going to be for $300 million. Merchandising, movie rights, and city contracts will make you millions as a supe in the Seven, which is why people just accept a reborn Thomas Gdulkan's offer. If you can make it into the top 10, you're just one step away from joining the Seven and getting access to lots and lots of money. It's also sort of like twisted tuning exams from Naruto. Always mess it up. It's not Naruto. Fucked it up again. Even just being in the top 10 itself, though, is a golden opportunity. Again, though, Homelander handpicks his 7 comrades, so you wouldn't be happy with some guy deciding who's on the team. Sam then tells Marie and the crew about Gdulkan's new seminar offer. However, it's a giant trap to lure Marie.
It's a fucking trap, obviously.
It's a trap!
He knows she will always do the right thing, and that's why a lot of heroes fail, because they're just so predictable. Our G-Man wants to use the seminars to level up and then take her over, and then he can move on to Homelander. Again, like the tuning exams, he's Rock Lee taking off his weight and becoming insanely powerful. She doesn't challenge him one-to-one though, like the old Marie would. She's learned across these 2 seasons to use the weapon of the enemy. Like her return to God U, she's using the power of social media. She's implemented mental health awareness and visibility, and here she warns the students against Gdulkan. All the comments are bashing her though, and not believing what she's saying. Of course, it won't get through to people like Rufus, who's a card-carrying Homelander. However, it does save some lives. Just like in real life though, there's a deep division across both sides, and the pleas to keep safe or listen to reason will often fall on deaf ears, especially if they're not part of your tribe. This is what we see right after her video when Sam and Emma try and warn Rufus that the seminar's too dangerous. Emma's incredulous as she explains Gdulkan's return as just being like some 1,000-year-old guy appearing out of nowhere, but Rufus is chill with it all. However, it isn't completely in vain. Black Hole is cautious about the whole thing and possibly questioning his mate's death last week. That is why he doesn't go with Rufus in the end. Sam thinks he can stop the Dickless Wonder though, only for him to get roofied again, which is a pretty dark name for what happened. This is similar to what Kate did to the group after they tried to stop Sam from killing the scientist from the woods. Waking up at a party, they have no recollection of what's just happened. It's also what Rufus did to Marie when he tried to sleep with her, only for his dick to get blown off. This time though, they have some totally hilarious face graffiti, but last time we showed something like this when talking about the bit in Superbad where he draws them all the time, we got demonetized. So no drawings for you. Instead, they're forced to watch the bondage babies doing jumping jacks without their powers, and it plays off the origins of the frat house antics from the comics. To the right of Black Hole, we also see a beer advertisement featuring Homelander. The beer looks a bit like a Budweiser one, which Homelander's ex-Stormfront was the face of, albeit when she was Liberty. Either way, they're informed of Rufus heading to the seminar, and we cut to said class. We see the girl on the right, a returning student who flunked out in episode 2. The ginger girl on the far left also looks like the girl that Marie fought against in episode 3. But there's a reason why 2 people who failed the seminar are back. Everyone here has been invited, as they're all failures and losers that watch Screen Crush. Gdulkan's giving a speech to the class, and he talks to Rufus with the dickless psychic saying he's a polymath. That's someone who's fantastic at multiple different topics like Leonardo da Vinci, which he clearly isn't in league with. Gdulkan is not only disgusted by people with useless powers, but also those who use their power for evil. Rufus used his abilities to abuse women, but not anymore, as he doesn't have a dick. Which, news travels fast on campus about that one. Meanwhile, Homelander's lighting up Sister Sage's phone, probably furious at what the hell's going on at God U. There's nothing she can do though, and Gdulkan starts to level up his powers as a way to control Marie. She's in shock as he says that the students have to earn their place among them or die trying. So they're just there to help him not make it to the 7. There will be no joining the 7, you stupid idiot. They're just here to stop him from touching the button, and this further sends home how they're there for his leveling up. Jordan Marie had to do that in their task, and basically the kids are Vicar here, whereas they're the person who's trying to get the power. You know what I'm saying? Goes horribly for the students as Gdulkan wipes the floor with them, and we see lots of different powers. There's a guy with Nightcrawler style teleportation and also one with laser eyes. Also, there's a guy who has powers like Kitty Pryde who just runs away. Later on we see that he's lost his clothes as he clearly phased through them too. Now this whole scene is of course a nod to the X-Men, and it further plays into how God used a parody of them, with this being the Danger Room. He makes easy work of the supes as they all fight each other and are left bloodied and beaten. Worse than even the fight with Vicor. Walking through the fight, it also reminds me heavily of that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Although he wins a task, his hands are starting to scar and burn, as using his powers is proving far too much for him. He's willing to do whatever it takes though. Gdulkan is once more on a massive ego trip, as he never had powers before the lab fire and now thinks he's some sort of god. This makes him clash with Sage, who he ends up meeting shortly after. Here she's wearing another Detroit shirt and she says they have a phase 2 again. Now, I do wonder what phase 2 actually is. It's something she's paid lip service to before, and we know Homelander is a vital part of the next steps. The only thing I can think of is to plant him in the White House and either control him or take the credit for ousting this dictator. In our season 4 breakdown, we talked about how she was brushed to the side, and this might be a major revenge quest that takes a lot of the powerful people out along the way, which would explain why so many who sided with her ended up ousted or destroyed. Gdulkan then orchestrates a musical number to the song Get Happy, which is sung by Ella Fitzgerald. It's a song all about filling oneself with religious happiness and singing. Considering Gdulkan's ecstatic about his powers and fulfilling his aim of making supes gods, it fits really well here. This song is of course really famous though, with the most well-known one being sung by Judy Garland in the 1950s movie Summer Stock. It also appeared recently in Joker 2 Folie à Deux, Electric Boogaloo. But best to forget about that movie. Sage then looks at his hands, moving everyone around, which is something that he told Marie not to do. As he later says though, it just feels right. He uses these people like puppets, and it seems like Sage feels she needs to stop him, especially due to the scene with Polarity after this. If he wins, Gdulkan will puppet people around, and this might even threaten the position she's built for herself. So far, he's only really been able to control 2 people at once, which could be due to the pain that he's constantly in. However, this training's expanded his powers and highlights him leveling up. While this is going on, we then see Marie and Jordan alerted to the Seminar massacre. This is the end of their relationship, even though Jordan forgives her for the Elmira abandonment. Jordan says they can't be together, which unfortunately is true. It always ends up like this, and superhero relationships are nigh on impossible, especially when they're actively trying to save people and not just be manufactured media heroes. But yeah, Spider-Man and Mary Jane, Superman and Lois Lane, Deadpool and Vanessa, they all have their ups and downs, and sadly this is another casualty of that curse. Poor Marie doesn't even get a moment to process being dumped, and the rest of the resistance rushes to tell them about their idea. That idea, as we find out later, is to Trojan horse themselves a black hole's arsehole, which kind of felt like it was playing off the classic MCU theory around the time of Endgame that Ant-Man could go up Thanos' butt and kill him. You remember the one? You love comic books, mate. Who couldn't love that theory? While this is going on, we then catch up with Polarity in what looks like the woods. It's so funny how Black Noir is his fanboy and isn't happy with the ending to one of his movies. He sounds like the reply to like a director's tweet. From what we can gather about the film, it's basically a parody of Aliens, and he talks about queens and eggs. Black Noir 2 is really funny though, and I love how they've given him a personality which is a stark contrast to the original. Now the movie they're talking about might even be one of Polarity's Area 51 films, which we have seen posters of. Polarity starred in Area 51, Area 52, Area 53, and Area 51 Reborn, with the latter clearly being a joke about reboots. They also might be playing off the Jump Street sequel titles. Polarity is also inside a glass cell, which might be a nod to Magneto's at the end of X-Men 1. I loved how Polarity was just like, you can talk now? And this would be a massive shock to him. Black Noir's been silent ever since the 80s, and yeah, he'd probably be confused about exactly who this guy is. It is cut short though as Sage comes in to speak to him and instantly notices how he's been healed. This observation reminds me a lot of the Sherlock Holmes movies where Robert Downey Jr. would just look at someone and instantly know loads of stuff about them. As she thought he'd be more dangerous when he had nothing to lose, but she realizes she's wrong. Back then his powers didn't work and he could have died at any moment. Now though he's been inspired to be a hero and has even more potential than what he's ever had. If anything, he's now far more dangerous that his powers are fixed, and he has a new purpose to be a hero, which once again continues that theme of the season. Sage is down in the dumps though because her boyfriend's a psycho. She questions Polarity about why he would sign himself up for the pain of possibly losing a loved one, just like how he lost his wife and son. This is something that clearly reflects her, and we see this trope all the time with super smart characters. They isolate themselves from others and have a hard time connecting to normal human emotions. Similar to shows like House, she's incredibly nihilistic as she says everything ends the same before then leaving. It's her trying to process the sadness of finally finding someone she's happy with, only to realise he's got the same flaws as everyone else. Sage leaves the door open though, just a little bit, and this is so Polarity can escape. There is plausible deniability though, and she says that he will die, but not today, and leaves. His escape can be framed as an issue with the cell itself, and it's also inspired by the comics to a certain degree. There Huey was sent undercover into the G-Men, which resulted in him ending up in an Animal House style frat. He then learned the abuse the young supes went through as children at the hands of Gdulkan. Some supes died, and some were kept zombified due to the V in their veins. Other scandals then appeared, and it all proved far too much for Vought. At the end of the arc, Huey and the boys were about to fight all the G-Men and their various teams, which they no doubt would have lost. Luckily for them though, the company turned up and killed them all, yay! In the end though, Stillwell said that they clean up their own shit and just couldn't handle another scandal getting out. Which might be what Sage is doing by letting Polarity escape and then go and kill Gdulkan. We then see the next class assemble with the heroes of Black Hole's arse. They back up Marie as Kate pushes Vance to let her in. The showdown then starts as the mind control supes try to take out Marie, but she cleans house and forces everyone out the guy's arse. Which we cannot show, of course, not that we'd want to. Already enough arseholes in this video, mate, eh? Now, if you'd like to be someone who doesn't look like an arsehole, then why not check out our merch store right below the video? There we've got a whole host of Gen V and the Boys inspired shirts, like the ones you see behind me. I've also just received this Avenue V inspired one as well, which you'll look bloody amazing in. If you buy more than one, you also get stackable discounts, and it all helps videos like this get made, so thank you. Anyway, I love how Sam and Greg team up for a double whammy on Laser Eyes to protect Emma. Thankfully, with Emma's personal growth, she can literally grow and channels Giant Man and Spartan kicks Gdulkan. It's a lot like the fight with Thanos during Infinity War, and such a great battle against the villain. The Bushmaster ties up Gdulkan as his powers are then duplicated by Harper. I love how they introduced she could take abilities back in episode 1, and then kind of pushed her to the side so you weren't constantly focused on that. I did theorize that she might pop up as a way to beat Cipher back in, I want to say episode 3, and yeah, it was nice how she was always there as the wild card. They then grab him, and it's very reminiscent of Spider-Man tying up the Mad Titan and then Mantis subduing him mentally. Harper then uses her powers and she speaks to everyone, which is a really cool moment. Marie then says that even the useless ones beat him, but he's upgraded, which seems to have been triggered by her using her powers on him, along with the training. As we learned in the premiere episodes, Harper's powers only work for 60 seconds, and clearly she didn't act fast enough. We then get the usual villain monologue as he touts his philosophy of pressure and forcing people to grow. He's got everything he wants now, as he can control the blood and knows exactly how to use her power set, as he spent his life studying her. Annabeth's vision then starts to come true. Last week she saw Marie in a blood explosion in the seminar room, however, as we find out, it was actually Gdulkan's death. At the start of the takeover though, she makes a blood whirlwind, which further calls back to those blade illusions. She then starts to grow wings like a fallen angel, and though she's been touted as Blood Jesus, it's clear she could be Lucifer. I love how Gdulkan also makes fun of Annabeth for being the worst precog and says,
"And you don't even go here, sweetheart."
Which I think might be a reference to Mean Girls. They're all in a dire position though, but Polarity comes in, aura forming his entrance, and ends up saving the day. He throws concrete blocks at Gdulkan, and this is similar to him throwing the kettlebells at poor Doug. As they've discussed, his powers negate Cipher's abilities, and he ends up with his head blown off, which is clearly playing off Newman's powers. In the end though, Marie did this for Andre, and in a funny twist of fate, Gdulkan did level her up. However, she'll now be part of the machine that will undo Supe supremacy. They have to leave though, as this is the second massacre at Gdulkan. Vought can't spin their way out of this one, and examples will need to be made. So it seems that Polarity will stay and take the rap for this, which might get him thrown in Elmira. This would then be a reverse of the end of season 1, as there it was the kids, but now it's the adults. I wonder if Sage will come up with a cover story though, and maybe get him out. For the meantime though, the kids actually want to stay, but there's no chance the Guardians will survive. Not all the resistance leaves though, as Greg's staying because of his sister. He also finally kisses Emma. She says fuck shit up, which was her mantra when joining with Ali and Harper. There's no chance of them getting together though, and Emma later says that she's working on herself. So there's no Emma and Greg, no Emma and Sam, and no Emma and anybody really. She's working on herself. I am interested to see what will happen to the university though, as I don't think it will be closed down. Instead, I think it might even become more authoritarian. Kind of like when Dolores Umbridge took over stuff at Hogwarts. Then again, Vought needs to save face, so time will only tell. They might even reveal in season 5 that they did something akin to the comics. The epilogue to the G-Men story has a group of supes formed by Gdulkan dumped into the sea, inside a container which they're all locked in. Which, bad. So I do kind of think the company might kill some poor young supes. When it comes to the Guardians though, they're now on the run, just like how Marie was at the start of the season. I loved how Jordan switched to a dude to take a leak, and you've got to use what you can when you're out on the run. Marie then asks her sister if she wants to leave, but finally she shows she's happy with her. They're both at peace, and Annabeth calls her a hero. Once more continuing the theme of the season, which I sound like a broken record, but they do say it a lot. We then see Starlight appear with the lights flickering, announcing her arrival. Everyone's impressed by her, and Marie acts like she knows her really well. Alright mate, chill out, yeah, I met Ed Sheeran once. Starlight then invites them to join the resistance, and I chuckled when Emma said they already have one. The biggest reveal though is that A-Train's joined them too. His fate was left up in the air, and he fled when things went sideways. He helped the boys with information on Homelander's plan, and even stopped MM from running away to Belize. He's had one hell of a journey though, and is a powerful supe to help the resistance. A-Train then gives him a pep talk and calls the kids rebels, which evokes the resistance and rebel alliance from Star Wars. It's a fair bit of a departure from the comics, as A-Train was killed by Huey after Billy interrogated him on Homelander's plan. However, in the show, he's kind of the OG person who turns against Vought, and he's even given, Huey V for his dad. He's a key member to have, and no doubt we'll see the Resistance play a big part in the upcoming Boys Season 5. We saw Sam and Kate in Season 4, and with how this ends, it's going to be one big showdown that I'm very interested to see. We then cut to credits and hear the song The Hand That Feeds by 9 Inch Nails playing. It's a political track from the 2000 album with Teeth. It's a protest song that actually takes aim at the Bush administration, and Trent Reznor penned it in response to the ongoing war on terror. After 9/11, there was massive government overreach with stuff like the Patriot Act, and lies were used as a way to push invasions. 9 Inch Nails even wanted to perform it at the 2005 VMAs in front of a massive George W. Bush statue, but MTV ended up refusing. With that in mind though, it's appropriate this song's used as the students join the Starlighters. The battle at God U will likely only lead to more surveillance from the government, and I believe Homelander will end up sitting in the Oval Office, similar to the comics. In that, after the G-Men were killed, Homelander was consulted by Stillwell, and it seemed like he was becoming more of a decision maker than just a corporate moneymaker. Herogasm then took place after it, and that's why he tried to announce his plan of the supes taking over the world. It ended up going wrong, and I imagine that the rebels will break out Frenchie, Huey and Kimiko before they then start fighting. Overall, I think this was a really solid season, and yeah, though I didn't quite think it lived up to season 1, there was a lot going on that I really enjoyed this time around. Cipher and Gdulkan as characters were such good villains, and yeah, I loved all the emotional dynamics. But yeah, it just felt like it's flown by. I can't believe it's like already over. But yeah, very excited to see where it goes next, and I actually hope that Ethan Slater returns for Vought Rising. That will follow the early days of Vought, and they may even show us when he met Cipher. Or Doug, I'm sorry Doug, and I just want Hamish back. Please bring him back. But yeah, with the new Wicked for good out in November, it's likely that his star is only going to continue to rise. I do feel like this season probably had a lot to deal with due to the passing of Chance Padermo. He died very early on in production, and they basically had no time to rework the scripts and then possibly get the distance from them where they could rewrite and rewrite. I do wonder if they'll ever talk about what the original plan was, and maybe Andre had a bigger role, or perhaps the character's death was always written into the story. It's difficult to not think of that and then think of how it might have affected things though. Even if you get like an extra 5 months of planning to kind of work around things, that's much more time than they were given. And I do feel like some of the arcs, some of the storylines, they did feel a bit underdeveloped or rushed at points. I do wonder if the original direction would have given them time for that instead of switching the focus on Andre's death in universe to drive character motivations. Obviously, you only get a certain runtime per episode, so you have to dedicate it to explaining that, when they might have used that time for other things if you hadn't passed away. I know that sounds very insensitive. I'm just trying to give a criticism objectively of why things went down the way they did, and perhaps how they might have had more time to explain things had certain things not happened. Because, yeah, like, I would have loved to have seen more with Gdulkan in his past and basically learn more about the character instead of the mystique that they kind of still kept up around him. But as always, you know, I'm trying to give my negative criticism along with my positive thoughts. And I think in the end, you know, they still pulled it out the bag. And this was a very, very solid season. They gave some great character arcs, progressed the characters in natural directions that felt true to their core and also built upon season 1. There's been some shows recently that I won't mention, that every character in that, they feel like that they're written exactly the same because it's the same guy who has the same style doing everything. Whereas, yeah, every character feels unique and different, and everything's kind of keeping in the way that they've acted in the past. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. In the end, though, this season's done a great job of setting up The Boys Season 5, which is what the showrunner stated that they wanted to do with this season. We will of course be back to cover that, and I just want to give a big thank you for following us as we've gone through this series. Really means a lot to see you guys back every single week, and when it comes to Amazon, we will be back for weekly breakdowns on Fallout Season 2. So I hope to see you there, and please drop a like on the video for one last time, and also drop a comment with what you thought about the season. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well, then make sure you check us out at Heavy Spoilers, where you'll be able to keep up to date with what we're doing. Did you know as well that members of the channel also get early access to videos? If you click the join button, it's just 99 cents a month, and you get at least one breakdown a week before anyone else. And they're big ones, stuff like Psycho and It and Tron and lots of classic movies. If not though, thank you so much for watching this video. Even that, you know, means so much to me. And yeah, hope to see you on the next series that we cover. With that out of the way, I've been your host Paul, you've been the best as always, and I'll see you soon. Take care, peace.